Character. Yeah, so character. Like as I said, I'm just going to be talking about the way I come up with stuff, or I make my stories, or whatever. And hopefully, it might be inspiring to you, or it might be inspiring because you might think, "Wow, I do it totally differently." But how I do it is that I definitely start with character. I guess my books, my stories, I would describe them as character-based. As you can see, there's no like huge epic scene. You can just see it's kind of focused on individual people, humans, and not very many either, just 2. In fact, both these books have that in common. They're both like dual character studies. They're both sort of equal character studies about 2 characters. So it's pretty unambitious, really. But like, I don't know, I think it's just my preference, or it's just what I'm interested in. But yeah, the thing I am interested in is, and when I say characters, I don't necessarily mean people. For instance, you guys, totally bear in mind, characters could be aliens, animals, anthropomorphic people, animal hybrids, any kind of gender. All that stuff is very interesting, and it can be, your character can definitely, reflect your interest in this. That's fantastic. And if you want to be the character yourself, i.e. memoir comics, there's a huge, great tradition of memoir comics, which is, I find them really interesting myself. And I would say if it is written from your real life experience, if it's you talking about your story, your life, whatever, I would say even that you have a slight head start, because it's more automatically interesting than if you're just making up, a 3-eyed unicorn called Roy. That's harder to, make an impression than if you're just talking about you when you went to the post office and saw like your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend there, and it felt funny. Like that's automatically going to draw me personally, and I think a lot of readers in. So as an example of how I come up with actually these specific characters here, Daniel and Sue Bagnold, these are the people who are in this book here, Days of the Bagnold Summer. Just like as a sort of a case in point, in 2005 I saw a mum and a teenage son with black hoodie on and like long hair. I saw them coming out of a computer game shop in Penzance, 2005, and for some reason they just sort of had a really strong effect on me, even though they weren't talking to each other. They just looked very kind of fed up of each other and very tired of each other. And they just stuck in my mind. And I think I just drew a couple of, drawings of them, how I remembered them afterwards in my head. These are some early drawings I drew of them. And what I would do, I just start drawing. Some of it was just like, I would just be doodling. I wasn't thinking what I wanted to do with them. At one point I wanted to make a animated musical about them with I was going to write the songs for it and stuff. Luckily that didn't happen, because I don't think it would have been very good. But anyway, they ended up being this comic strip here, which I will talk about more later on, about how I made it. But generally I'm talking about how I generated these characters, and I just would draw them. It looks kind of bonkers. I would just draw them over and over again in different ways. I'd make the sort of collage, it's almost like information sheets about them. It's all very messy, but you guys can get the idea. And similarly, like when I made my second book, that was sort of based on someone I remembered very vaguely, because I'm quite old, when I learned to drive as sort of 17-year-old. So I just got into draw. So there's whole pads. It looks kind of crazy, like a sort of like a serial killer or something or other would do. Would just draw the same thing over and over again. But it's just so it's just me trying to work out what the person looks like. So I just draw. This is almost like an audition process. This is what we're gonna have a go at in a minute, and we're gonna see what happens. It's gonna be an experiment. We're gonna do a mind experiment, a mind art experiment. But you get the ideas of what's going on. And often I'll do all these different pictures over and over again, the same thing, trying to get what someone looks like. And similarly, the book I'm doing now, as you can see, like in this book, they're all, they're these big pictures, but this time I try and draw the character Margaret. She's an older lady character, Margaret, and I would just make loads of. These are monoprints, so they're quite big. So I just scan them all in, and I would make a sort of, crazy looking gallery of different Margaret attempts, Margaret heads. I think that's what we're going to do now as a group, as a assignment. We're going to try and formulate or evolve a character on paper. if we do this together, so this is a little assignment for this section, this character section. So if you just make sure you got a pen that you like or a pencil that you like, and some blank paper, and I'm just gonna start drawing. I don't know what's gonna come out at all. So you can see I'm drawing like a person at the moment. It looks quite sort of naturalistic. There's sort of rather nervous looking person. He's got. So these are the thoughts. Already I've got some thoughts. I'm thinking like, oh, he's got quite longish hair. What decade are we in? You know, maybe it's the 1970s. Maybe it's like Leo Sayer style hair. So that's something maybe I'll give him. That makes me give him like big lapels, something like that. And he looks kind of nervous. Maybe he's like a nervous university student from the 1970s. So maybe I would write that down, just like make a note of it. So you're drawing too now, and if anything comes to you. But you can see I'm drawing it's kind of like a naturalistic real life person. But of course there's lots of, if you wanted to do an amoeba character, like I was saying, it doesn't have to be a human, it doesn't have to be, it's hard to make an amoeba character for, but maybe you can, maybe that's a worried amoeba there with the fret lines here, or maybe it's like sweating amoeba. I guess thinking, oh no, maybe I'm gonna like turn into two amoebas or whatever. That looks like so you can do something much more cartoony like that. I've turned it in. Maybe this guy's called Gerard. Sometimes you just get a name that comes to you. Gerard is a wacky guy. Maybe he's like the office joker guy who wears like the comedy tie. Who knows? So basically it's like improvisation. Often when I'm just doodling like totally absent-mindedly, I often draw. I think it's just because drawing like long hair is quite fun, and then sometimes I will draw. This is like my, as they say, like in the modern, using the modern phrase, is my go-to. Often I draw some sort of like moody or sad-looking woman. I don't know why. I don't know if that's what it says. She's got a very tall head, this woman. So maybe she's really got a lot of hair product. So maybe I'm thinking about hair maintenance in the 60s. See, all these things make me think of things, and they will make you know how it is. It's like you're doodling, but your brain goes places. Now I'm thinking about hair products, and I keep drawing. And then if you're into animal characters, maybe there's guess. Look, I'm drawing a dog again. There's a surprise. Dog smoking a pipe. Doesn't really make me think of anything, that one. But apart from maybe this jacket is maybe corduroy. It's got a corduroy jacket. Because corduroy is fun to do with these brush pens. Remember when I was drawing the same thing over and over again? So maybe I'll do that and see what emerges. So I'm thinking of an older female characters recently. So maybe if I'm thinking about, and sometimes they're quite hard to draw too. So maybe I'm thinking about older woman character. This looks maybe I think, like list. I'll make a list. This is what I would do typically. I would make a list. I would think like my aunt. Immediately I'm thinking about my aunt, because my aunt's like has a big kind of biggish nose. Maybe I'm thinking about my old neighbour as well. She kind of reminds me of her. My old neighbour. What was she called? Phyllis, I think. Sometimes I'll have some sort of other thought of like, maybe it will remind me of like the Severn Bridge. Maybe her face, or the architecture of her face will make me think about the Severn Bridge, or something like that. I'm just using that as an example of a random connection, but it will mean something to me, and it will help me, it'll help inform your characters. I'll try and draw again. Different. Some people are much more organized than me, and they'll draw, like for animation, often people do this. They'll do a character sheet where like it's her looking happy as well. She doesn't look that happy, does she? Here she looks worried. So really this is sort of like an auditioning process. You're auditioning what people look like, which I've done in all those other things I was showing you. Maybe I'll try drawing in profile. Maybe I'll draw her like figure. Maybe she's got a dog, or maybe she's got a cat. Maybe she's got a cat on a lead. It's weird. Some cats do go for a walk on a lead, right? And then I just had the name Maeve popped into my head, which is interesting. See, now I'm thinking about kids today are often called like grandma names or old lady names, like Maeve. They come back in. So that's interesting in itself, because then you think about two people of different ages with the same name. So maybe there's like a young Maeve too. So that makes me think about another character in relation to the character I've come up with already, which is often where ideas come from. Like one thing is like the text and image thing. Like you have the image, and then you have the text, and then together you get this third other ingredient. The idea of two people called Maeve at different ends of the generational spectrum. That's an idea, an actual concept. So I'm just going to keep drawing the Maeve. Maybe I'll draw the Maeves together. Maybe the Maeves know each other. Maybe they don't know each other, which is interesting. Maybe they live next door to each other, but they never have met. They're just like, they're kind of parallel. Maybe they just meet once at a bus stop, and guess what happens? That's up to you. Okay, so as you can see, I've been drawing these people this is like my drawing style. I wish I could draw in different styles. Like obviously I'm not very good at cartoons. Look what happens. Amoeba eyes, no good. Some people can do this and it's brilliant. So this is my style. But if you're thinking like, oh no, I can't draw people, I've got a real problem. There's so many different ways of, making a strength out of your weaknesses. So if you're not good at drawing people like that, you can still make a really affecting story. This is just how I do it personally, like I was saying. If you want to join me on this assignment, which is just begin drawing a person or a thing or a character of some kind, any kind, and just see where it goes, see what develops, see what thoughts come to you. Whether it's names, whether it's lists, whether it's dialogue, even something that they might say. You might put some unexpected dialogue with it, like we did earlier, where we were talking about, the dog looking at the puddle, and then maybe what they were called and what they were thinking, all that kind of stuff. Like half an hour will generate, I'm sure, one or two at least characters. So thanks so much for doing some drawings with me and filling up some space, filling up some paper, and I'll see you for the next section.